Welcome back inside our Big Ten Today studios. Rick Pizzo joined by Emily Ehman in a very different capacity, Emily, than we see you sometimes work for us on the sidelines as an analyst in a lot of different sports, but you're also a mental health advocate for student athletes. How did that begin for you?
Yeah, when I came to college, I was lucky enough to not have to deal with something like, crippling depression or crippling anxiety. But when you're thrust into the world of being a student athlete, it really opens your eyes to what others can be facing. So January of my freshman year in 2017, a women's basketball player, Jordan Hankins, committed suicide, took her own life. And for me, that was eye-opening to the fact that there's so many people out there that you don't know are struggling. I had so many friends on that team that said we had absolutely no idea, or we didn't know how bad that it was. So for me, that opened my eyes. I got involved within an organization within Northwestern Athletics to help promote destigmatizing mental health and wellness in general. We did things like create the Green Bandana Project, which really just worked to destigmatize mental health, open up that conversation so that some people can feel more comfortable opening up. 30% of college students face a mental health condition. Only 30% of those get help, and only 10% of student athletes do. So it's a crazy discrepancy of being a collegiate athlete and feeling like you want to be tough, like you have to keep going 100%. You don't know when to pump the brakes. And so for me, opening up that conversation and trying to make that a more open and normal conversation in the ways that we talk about physical health became really important to me.
So recently, I know that a charity organization near the campus at Wisconsin called Uncut Madison hosted a panel, student athletes and others, yourself involved, to talk about the needs of student athletes and give them a platform to discuss more than just athletics and their bodies, but to discuss their minds. What was your takeaway?
My biggest takeaway was how some of these athletes were able to open up. People like Monte Ball, Chris Borland, Emma Jaskinek, who is a current women's soccer player there. And then we had the former director of sports and clinical psychology. So it was essentially just an open panel discussion, hearing about their unique stories and a lot of the same common themes amongst all these people with such different experiences. And my biggest takeaway was, one, it's okay to not be okay and ask for help. It seems cliche to say, we talk about it all the time, that it is okay to not be okay. But hearing these people who have really big platforms talk about their struggles and how they came to, finally get in tune with their mental health, try to improve that, that was really eye-opening to me. And then the other takeaway was just how many students were there. It was so cool to see people from the community, not only student athletes, but other students. And, parents came up to me after of student athletes or students that went to Wisconsin just to say, thank you for opening this discussion up and telling people that it is okay to not be okay. It's okay to talk about these things. Check in with your friends, things like that. So those were definitely my biggest takeaways from the event. But it was so cool to just be a part of an event that's talking about these things, because that's the number one thing. Once we talk about it, that has more people open up, more people know that it's okay to get help.
So how has this conversation evolved? Honestly, this is probably a conversation we're not having on this show 10 years ago.
Definitely.
Right? So today, how has this evolved from your days as an athlete to those athletes in today's day and age maybe being more willing to say it is okay to not be okay?
I think since the conversation has been opened, the door's been cracked a little bit. We're seeing more people talk about it. Major athletes, people like Naomi Osaka, people like Simone Biles, Kevin Love, Michael Phelps, these massive names that people look up to. I think once that conversation has been opened, and it has over the last few years, we're seeing more people talk about it, and more in a normal way, not in a stigmatizing way of, oh, that person must be weak. Now we're seeing it as kind of a sign of strength. We're seeing these athletes that we view as the best in their sport, the top of their game, the best athletes in the world. And when they open up about it, it makes us normal people, whether you're a student athlete or just a person, one of 7 billion people in this world, when you see that, it makes you feel more comfortable to do so and know that it is okay to get help. It is okay to tell a friend that maybe you're not doing that well, that maybe you want to go get help. But it's evolved a lot in the last few years. I mean, this panel discussion was something that I couldn't even have dreamed of a few years ago, even while being in college. That door was cracked open, and now I feel like it's cracking open a little bit more. We're having more conversations about it, which is so key in destigmatizing mental health as a whole.
We are having more conversations, but those conversations need to continue. what subject matter needs to be involved? What are we not discussing maybe enough right now that could help in this quest to make athletes, student athletes, feel like when they're not feeling okay, I need to talk about it and I need to get some help?
I think just more intimate conversations about it. I think, the media in general has kind of done a good job of covering these athletes that might be struggling, but I think on a one-to-one basis is so important. So whether that's a teammate reaching out to another teammate, I think it's so important for coaches to open that conversation in the locker room, in their own offices, inviting people in, making them feel comfortable about it. Coaches have to be involved just as much as the athletes on the teams are, or college students in general, anyone, but having those intimate one-on-one conversations of, you might think your best friend is doing really well, but check in with him or her. Really ask, how are you doing? If you see something's been off, maybe say, I've seen something has been off with you, and hey, let's talk about it. But approaching the conversation in a more casual way makes them feel a little more comfortable, which is great. But yeah, I think those conversations have to be on a one-on-one basis, teammate to teammate, coach to teammate. Open your locker room to talk about it. The conversations just have to happen more often at a smaller level.
Lastly, before I let you go, and this is out of curiosity and a little bit out of personal curiosity as well, the social media aspect of these student athletes staying where they need to be mentally. I mean, I personally left Twitter a couple of years ago and I'm not back on because I felt like 99% of the stuff that I read was critical about what we did here. And I felt like I would be in a better mental place if I didn't even bother to read it. And it's tenfold that, 100-fold that for big time athletes who hear more criticism. Now, some praise as well, but more criticism from those who watch them. What is that conversation like surrounding maybe taking a break from those kind of media outlets when you really need to?
Yeah, that was a really interesting topic during our Uncut Madison panel discussion, because we had someone like Monte Ball, who is a major athlete, has heard everything in the book on social media. And then someone like Ehman, someone who's just a player on the women's soccer team, someone not this massive name, but it seemed like social media affected people the same. Whether you're getting a lot of hate from someone, learning to turn it off can be difficult, or whether you're, especially females, because we're comparing ourselves all the time. You're seeing a highlight reel of someone on Instagram. You're not seeing their day-to-day life. So it was interesting to see all these people talk about how social media has affected them, a lot of it in negative ways. What I would say to those people is social media should be there to, it should be a happy place, an escape maybe. Curating your page to follow people that you enjoy seeing, not someone that you might be comparing yourself to. You can easily say silence the haters. I know that's easier said than done, but if you are one of those big time athletes that's dealing with it, log off. Someone like Joey B, that's why he's doing so well right now. He's not on social media reading all these comments. He doesn't care. If it's not serving you in a positive way, turn it off.
Really important conversation. Glad we're able to have it here. And yes, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and that's why we're having this conversation, but it goes 12 months a year, 365 days a year. Emily, we truly appreciate the time.
Thank you. Happy to be here.